Hi, it's Ramsey Dewey with the JX Fight Club in Shanghai, China, and today we have a two-part question from our friend the Pavarithian, who asks, first, could a karate expert beat a boxer? And second, could a karate expert beat a bodybuilder with no fighting experience? Okay, now there are a lot of variables in that question. First question, karate guy versus the boxer. If it's a boxing match, yeah, clearly the boxer is going to win that because that is the sport that he trains for. Boxers are all about finding the angles and understanding the position as far as boxing goes, whereas karate tends to be very linear, and in most karate competitions, striking the head is illegal, and so a lot of karate practitioners don't have live experience with that. Now, if it's a street fight or an MMA fight or a kickboxing match, that's a different story, because a lot of karate fighters have gone on to have a lot of success in those regards. If he's allowed to kick and clinch and throw, if he comes from one of those karate styles that also incorporates judo techniques, which some of them do, then yeah, he'll definitely have a lot of extra tools to work with against a boxer. Now, my very first professional kickboxing match, way back when, was against a guy with some amateur boxing experience, and I didn't do very well. I came from a traditional martial arts background. I had just done Taekwondo up until that point in my life, and I felt like, well, kickboxing is a natural extension of Taekwondo. How different can it be? You punch and kick in Taekwondo, you punch and kick in kickboxing. But again, in the World Taekwondo Federation, in competition, you don't punch the head. It's illegal to punch the head, just the body. You can kick the head, right? And I figured, well, it'll be an easy transition. I went up against this guy who was an amateur boxer, not a great amateur boxer, just, so-so. But he basically kicked my butt for 3 rounds because he simply had experience that I didn't. Okay, and that made a big difference. So his angles were better, his hand speed was better, and he had no problem pulling the trigger when it came to striking the head, whereas I kind of had to stop and think about it like, oh yeah, you can hit the head right here, because that wasn't in my muscle memory. So that is a big deal. Now the second question, can a expert karate fighter beat a bodybuilder? Now I assume by bodybuilder you mean a much larger, stronger opponent. Okay. Now, this is important because size and strength matter a great deal in fighting. The bigger and stronger you are, the harder it is to fight you. Okay? The more potential you have to generate power, okay, the more strength and power you can apply behind your technique, and it's just going to be harder to deal with you. Now, there are plenty of examples of those David versus Goliath fights where the little guy beats the big guy, but that little guy had a solid technical understanding, and he himself was not an unathletic person. Now, I've trained with a lot of different types of strength athletes over the years, bodybuilders, powerlifters, strongmen, and there's definitely a hierarchy of strength. Aesthetic bodybuilders are definitely not as strong, generally speaking, as powerlifters and strongmen and Olympic weightlifters. But anybody who goes to the gym every day and lifts weights like a bodybuilder does is going to be much, much stronger than anybody who does not. Okay? So the average bodybuilder is way, way stronger than the average person, and they're definitely a lot bigger. Both of those turn into serious advantages in a fight, even if you don't know anything about fighting. Okay? So, the advantage the karate guy would have is an understanding and ability to use ranged attacks. Okay? Now, an untrained fighter, a completely untrained fighter, they tend to follow a few tendencies. Human instinct, when we get hit, when punches start coming at us, we tend to flinch, put our arms out, try to back up, get away from the danger. And when we find that's impossible, maybe there's nowhere to retreat, we tend to go forward and try to grab and hold our opponent, generally trying to grab and squeeze the head. It's self-comfort. It's like trying to get a hug. We don't think of it that way because we don't think in a fight. We react, right? So untrained fighters are going to react by flinching and grabbing, flinching and grabbing. You can see a bunch of street fights here on YouTube, and you see that's generally what happens when you have two untrained guys go at it, right? There's some punching. As soon as somebody gets hit, it turns into flinching and grabbing, okay? Now, you definitely don't want a really big, strong guy grabbing you, because even if he doesn't know how to wrestle or capitalize on a headlock at all, a really big, strong guy is squeezing your head and putting his weight on you. That is a bad situation. You know, even a complete idiot understands that, hey, if I get on top, put my weight on this guy, and punch him in a position where he can't hit me back, I win. So, yeah, I would say if that karate expert has a lot of experience training with larger, stronger opponents, then he may have a pretty good chance of winning that fight. Now, if he has not spent a considerable amount of time training with larger, stronger opponents, then that may not be the case, okay? Because even untrained, larger opponents can be extremely dangerous. I mean, I've had this experience many times training with really strong strength athletes, and here's me with, you know, how long have I been doing martial arts, man? Since I was 17 years old, 22 years of martial arts experience, okay? 22 years of martial arts experience, live training, okay? Smart, intelligent training, and you got a really big guy twice my size. I don't like that fight. I don't like my odds in that fight. I don't care what he knows. You know, just that physically imposing stature, that's dangerous. Okay, nobody's magical. Techniques are not magic. They're not magic tricks. They are suggestions to increase our likelihood of success. Okay? There's no 100% guarantee. So if you want to beat bigger, stronger opponents, then you definitely need to train with bigger, stronger people so you understand exactly what that feels like and exactly how to overcome those odds. A great thing to do, which is something I spend a lot of time doing myself, is watching those type of fights where the smaller, weaker guy ends up winning based on superior technique. And way back when I opened up my first gym back in the US, I had this really big guy come in, really big, really strong. He weighed over 400 pounds, and I was walking around about 155 pounds at the time. And he wasn't super technical, but man, if he got on top, you know, he could just squish you to death with his weight. And if you put his strength into that, even worse. And I was having a really hard time teaching this guy, because if he got on top in my guard, he could just lean forward and crush me to death with his size. And, you know, I had heard the martial arts mantra so many times: size and strength are of secondary importance, technique is the most important thing, right? I was thinking, well, you know, size and strength seems pretty important in this situation. So I started to study a lot of matches. I went on YouTube and looked up like David and Goliath matches, small guy beats big guy, and I watched all the ones I could find. And one of the most important was a match between Josh Barnett and Ricardo Almeida. Almeida is a much smaller fighter, and Josh Barnett is a really big guy. But Barnett is also super technical. All right, he's an expert catch wrestler. You know, he was awarded a jiu-jitsu black belt without ever training in jiu-jitsu, just because his grappling was that good. I mean, we're talking about a solid athlete here. And Ricardo Almeida ended up winning the grappling match because he was able to stay out from the bottom using really impressive technique. And that's really how I learned to develop my open guard to a much higher degree, because I watched how Ricardo Almeida, instead of, you know, trying to eke out a win on the bottom, he was doing everything he possibly could to get back on top, because he understood if you're fighting someone bigger and heavier, you don't want to be on the bottom of that. So, yeah, watch those matches and also spend a lot of time training with bigger, stronger opponents, and it's going to teach you how to survive in that situation. So again, if the karate guy is the sort of person who has trained like that, yeah, he's going to have a significant advantage over the person with no training, right? However, if he's never trained with bigger, stronger people, yeah, he's going to have a rude awakening as soon as that big dude grabs that schoolyard bully headlock and he doesn't know how to get out, or simply hasn't conditioned himself to fix his posture when you got a 120-kilo guy hanging on your head. Because that takes practice. Those situations take practice. Anyway, I hope that helps. If any of you have questions, please leave them in the comments below. I haven't had too many questions on my channel lately, and I will be happy to answer them. There are no stupid questions, guys. Thanks for watching. Get out there and train.